Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We're glad you're back for our Virtual Connect series. This week is one of our topics that's near and dear to our heart. Of course, it's leadership development through a program that was started in Washington, D.C. and has spread across the nation. AI Colorado was one of the first to adopt it and outside of Washington, D.C., and we've had a really great run at it with a lot of successful alumni. And so what you're going to hear about today is more regarding the Christopher Kelley Leadership Development Program and its manifestation here in Colorado. You'll hear from alumni, you'll hear from current organizers, and this is the pitch for you to join us and be in the next cadre of alumni who've been taking advantage of this great and beneficial program. You'll hear how their careers have grown and advanced through this really great AI Colorado Leadership Development opportunity. Today, we have joining us, I don't know in what order exactly, but we've got three really special guests who will tell us more about it. Rebecca Wagner is on the steering committee. Hi, Rebecca. We also have Rachel Johnson, who was one of the early adopters and startups for this program. Hi, Rachel.
Hey, Mike.
And we have Mario Siciliano, who has headed up the effort as well. It has a rotating cast of leadership within the leadership development program, so you'll hear from those leaders. And without further ado, of course, you get learning units for today's session, so we encourage you to stick around for the full hour to get your full learning unit. We'll have panel presentations, some questions from the audience. Please use the Q&A function below to ask your questions and we'll get them answered. And then we'll come back at the end for some wrap-ups. So Rebecca, Rachel, Mario, thanks again and take it away.
Thanks so much, Mike. Thanks for setting this up for CKLDP to promote our upcoming class. We run a term that starts right around August and runs through April or May every year. As you can see on the welcome screen here, we just wanted to bring a few dates to your attention. Obviously, today is July 8th. This is the Virtual Connect information session, so thanks all for joining us. We're excited to have you, excited to help you learn more about the program today and answer any questions you might have. Speak up at any point if you like. We will have open question at the end. Applications are currently set to be due on July the 20th, so we've got still a couple of weeks out for those to be put together, looking for letters of recommendations and the other items that you can see on the AIA website. If you go to the website and look on the calendar for today's event, you can find some info there, or there was a link sent out with the flyer, and that would be the spot to look for more information there for application materials. And then our first session would be planned for August 28th. We know it will be virtual. So if you are selected, that'll be the first date. We're asking all applicants to please hold that ahead of time to make sure that that's clear on your calendar. It is a mandatory attendance for that event. So you can go to the next slide. So what is the CKLDP? It's kind of the $10,000 question. We promote it a lot. You hear about it through friends you might have, coworkers, other acquaintances. It is a template that we follow that, as Mike said, was started in DC and that Rachel brought to Denver here just a few years ago. It's a 9-month-long competitive program. Like I said, we run from August through May. We select 16 emerging and ambitious candidates every year out of the applicant pool to participate. And then we will split you into pairs based on your interests for the 8 different sessions that we typically hold. And you will work with your partner to plan and conduct that session, which is a half-day long event on Friday afternoons once a month for that term. What we focus on there is strengthening, building, and practicing leadership skills. You're going to have a chance to interface with various experts, folks who are higher up, folks who have become leaders in government or in different firms or in allied professions. And it's a really great opportunity to expand your network by interfacing with these people, making connections. You might find a mentor. The opportunities are pretty significant. And it really is a unique nationwide community where we seek to make an impact on the profession as we grow together. And I'll quickly introduce our executive committee for this coming year. I'm Mario, like we said. I'm the chair emeritus, as we call it. So I was the program chair last year and the vice chair the year before. We have sort of a 3-year arc to that leadership track on our committee. So I'll be more of an advisory role this year, but still involved. And then we've got Rebecca Wagner, who will be our incoming chair for this year. She's got some really great ideas and is going to be carrying that torch forward in a pretty strong way for this term. And then after Rebecca, as she was last year and I was 2 years ago, this year's vice chair is Mr. Mark Beaver. Really outgoing, outstanding individual. Again, strong ideas, strong leader. I'm excited to have him on board. He will be the chair next year and then the chair emeritus the following year. And then Melissa Steyer is our regional outreach coordinator. And this role is newer for our committee. It's kind of evolving. What she's going to be working on is outreach to, number one, nearby cities to see if we can start additional chapters. And number two, something we're kind of excited to broach more this year that we've been speaking with some of the founders about, and Rachel, is getting a little more communication between the various chapters that we have across the country at this point. I think we're somewhere around 10 to 12 cities as we stand. So we have a large opportunity to learn from one another, to share some knowledge, and to build this community in a sort of bigger fashion. And then we have Whitney Grant Swanson, who will be doing marketing and graphics for us. She'll be in charge of all the materials that you folks are seeing right now, and then that you will see throughout the program that we communicate down from our committee here. And Michael Riley is our treasurer, keeping track of the books and making sure that we're in good standing with the AIA Colorado. They do a lot for us. And moving on, we really want to take a moment here today to thank our sponsors. Part of how we keep our relationship with AIA Colorado going and keep this group a self-sustaining organization that actually contributes to rather than draws from AIA Colorado is through sponsorship. And so we have numerous ones we've got at different levels. Our two benefactors this year were my employer, Davis Partnership Architects. Can't thank them enough for continuing and ongoing support through all the craziness, and HKS Architects as well. Both of these firms have significantly contributed to us in the past couple of years. We've had a number of scholars from each firm. Those have also gone to take on leadership roles within this group. Anderson Mason Dale is another one who has sponsored heavily across a couple different sessions. And we have to thank them as well. They also have contributed numerous scholars to this organization, and they're a really great pool of talented individuals. And then we've got a couple of manufacturers, Forbo Flooring Systems, great folks that have helped us out from time to time and very consistently, and also Rockfon, and like sentiments there. At this point, I would like to turn it over to Rachel Johnson, who is, like I said, our founder of the CKLDP Denver chapter. She's going to speak a bit about her background and her participation in the original Washington, D.C. sort of founding chapter, and tell you what we are about, what the roots of the program are, our core values, and where we're headed here. So Rachel, please take it away.
Thanks, Mario. Well, my name is Rachel Johnson. I am sitting on the AIA Colorado Board of Directors, and I'll serve as our board president next year, 2021. I also work at Smith Group as a healthcare architect there in our brand new Denver office. But what I'm really most proud of is my involvement in this program, both in DC when I worked over there, and then also bringing the program here to Colorado. I lived in DC for a couple of years, but I first started getting involved with AIA when I noticed this program, the CKLDP. I was at the time a member of the Virginia AIA in Northern Virginia, and I wasn't sure if DC would accept a foreigner into their AIA program. But I emailed over to the founders of the program, and they said, absolutely, please apply. The more the merrier at this point. We want to really spread this wide as much as we can in the region, and it's pretty tight over there. So that was a big deal for me to get to be involved. But what I learned was this program is really, it was brand new at the time, started in 2013, and it was built in honor of this guy on the screen, Chris Kelley. He was pretty big in the community. He's actually known by some of the big architecture names here in Colorado as people have heard of him or been mentored by him or actually mentored him. Chris Chris was a big deal in AIA on a young architects level. He chaired a couple of things. He worked nationally with committees, and people knew him as an up-and-coming big brain in the industry. Chris unfortunately passed young, surprisingly, one day, and left his family sadly without him. But his friends from AIA, his colleagues and his AIA DC and AIA National cohort pulled together to create this program. DC was looking at the time to create a leadership program, and this seemed the perfect opportunity because that's what Chris was all about. He wanted to nurture young leaders and bring folks up the right way through architecture and help them innovate and impact the profession as they learn and grow. The program started out just as it is now, as a 9-month program, 16 scholars, 8 sessions led by scholars, and 1 introductory session. And it has continued that way since. Like I said, it started in DC in 2013, and I was a scholar in the 2014-15 program year, so the second year. And it really has thrived since. When I moved back to Colorado, 2016, I believe, we started the program here, and it was pretty easy pitch with the AIA board and a couple of the efforts going on here in Colorado. They had actually been in the same position that DC was back when the program started, in searching for a leadership program. So here in Colorado, we had a mentorship at a student level. That was a program that was available to members. And then we had a group mentorship option as well. And really what was missing was the next step. So as a student, you seek mentorship and guidance. Then as a group, you take one more step into that world. And then finally, you get to lead, find your own mentors on your own time, and then lead and bring mentors to other people at that point. So this is a no-brainer for Colorado. And like Mario said, it is a self-sustaining program, so it wasn't really putting AIA Colorado out much either. It was just bringing in so much benefit that we couldn't say no. And I think every year since then, we've had full classes, full sponsorships, and really no hang-ups. Is that dance one from this year? Yeah, nice. So I've been involved. I was chair in 2016 and then 2017. I did have a helper, Christina Wynn, who now lives in DC, and her husband works with AIA National. So it's kind of all in the family. But as soon as I could, I handed off leadership per that 3-year rolling leadership that Mario mentioned. Kurt was our next guy, and you'll hear from Kurt later. And then Mario was next in line. So it seems to be thriving, and we seem to be bringing in new ideas the more we build up our class roster. So basically every year we leave, I think the stats are with 60 or so speakers having addressed the class, 16 scholars, maybe 5 to 10 sponsors, and then a new leadership track every year. So I think we're entering year 5 now. So do the math there, but we've seen a lot of people go through this network, and it will only grow. Last thing, I think vision-wise, ultimately the program is to honor Chris Kelley's legacy, and we haven't seen any issue with that. Everyone who applies for this program has competitive drive to contribute in a positive way to the industry, and starts to figure out if they don't know already that AIA Colorado can help with that as well. I'm not speaking to you here as your future president, but I will say that the fact that AIA Colorado adopted this program before any other state chapter did is a really big deal, and kudos to leadership and continued involvement there. It's a big thing to allow non-competitive cross-firm collaboration. And kudos to all the firms who allow their people to be involved as well, because it is a big deal. But that being said, we want to keep that healthy competition. We want to maintain a really high level of expectation, both on the participant side, but also everyone involved, speakers, sponsors, AIA, leadership, executive committee, and really that's kind of the only way people thrive in this program is if you bring your A game. But it is a big network to be a part of. It is of huge benefit for one's career, for your face in the industry and in the local community. And it's just an awesome opportunity to learn, to be involved, and to take action. We've touched equity and diversity topics, some political topics, advocacy, as well as personal growth and learning. Thanks, Mario.
Thanks so much, Rachel. That was great. I'm going to go into a few of the logistics, kind of this upcoming year and the application process. So this is the 2020-21 calendar. So as it's been mentioned, there are 9 sessions. There's the boot camp session, which you just show up to, and then 8 sessions, and each 2 scholars get to host one of these sessions. So it's not about having any of this information yourself, but rather inviting experts in these different topics to come and speak to the rest of the class. We have it divided into this kind of trimesters of the fundamentals, practice management, and beyond the firm. However, these topics do change a little bit from year to year, so we might be crafting these a little bit more before we kick off this next year. And at the beginning, the scholars get a chance to kind of vote and give their preference as to which topic they would prefer to host, and then we get them divided up and paired up that way. So hopefully it's something that you're passionate about. However, these topics are really broad, and there's opportunity for the scholars to kind of direct the dialogue wherever they want, wherever they're most interested. So it's a lot of self-directing and a lot of opportunity to kind of pull in speakers, panelists, whatever. Sometimes we do tours of facilities, things like that, that pertain to each of these topics. The calendar, the dates are actually correct. They're set here. It's generally the 2nd Friday of each month, and it's just a half-day session. So it usually goes from noon to 5 p.m., and there's typically a happy hour after each one. Given the current climate, we are having to remain flexible and adaptable for this coming year. We know that we will have to remain virtual through at least the end of October. So the first couple sessions will be virtual, and then we'll have to reassess at that time and see if it can be in person or if it will remain virtual. The application is pretty straightforward. It's not a huge time commitment. It's a 1 letter of recommendation, which is different from previous years. 1 resume, and we really recommend that you kind of emphasize your education and employment history and your extracurricular involvement on that. We have a couple, like an agreement form that just needs to be signed, and then a series of short answers. As you go to fill this out, we just remind you to please follow the instructions. Do not go over 250 words. And if you answer these questions, quality over quantity is always recommended. As I mentioned before, there's an agreement form which needs to be signed by your firm. This is this program works with each of your firms, so it's important that they're on board and that they understand this commitment. It's not a huge time commitment, being once a month for a half day, and you will be planning 1 session, but the rest of the time you get to just show up and absorb that information and knowledge. So it's just really important that your firm understands this time commitment and that they're allowing you to be part of it. We also have an optional tuition assistance. You just need to fill out this form, and we will see what kind of requests we get, and the AIA will be able to award certain tuition assistance at different levels based on circumstance. As it was mentioned before, the applications are due on Monday, July 20th, and it is an email submission. It's not an upload on the website. The application PDF is on the website, and it has really clear instructions, naming conventions for each of the files, and then those get emailed directly to Mario. This is the website here. You can also go find it through AIA Colorado. And if you have any questions about the program, the application process, logistics, anything, feel free to email me. And that is my email there, gensler.com. And now I'm going to hand it back to Mario to introduce the panel.
Thanks, Becca. So attendees, we've got 4 individuals who are past scholars and also a past leader of this chapter to give you some sort of testimonial and some deeper understanding of just what the impact this program has had on these folks. And at the end, we'll kind of open it up to questions. But on our panel today, we have a colleague of mine from Davis Partnership, Mr. Kurt Baseford, who was a scholar in 2017, went on to be vice chair and chair emeritus. Kind of taken a step back this year, but he just became associate at the office, so plenty to do. We've got Alex Jewett, 2020 scholar from this past year. Alex is a principal at his firm of God and Suddick, and was one of our more involved and proactive and also more experienced scholars this year, and would be a great example of the reach and the breadth of our program, that we come from all levels, and it's all, everyone's welcome, and we are all going to learn from one another. So thanks, Alex, for being here as well. We've got Benny McMullen, who is now a director of architecture at BSA Life Structures. He was a scholar with us this past year as well, and brought a great amount of passion and personality and a lot of fun to the program, and was a great participant. Thanks for being here, Benny. And Olga Bryko of HKS, one of our benefactor sponsors as well. Olga, also very bright, very engaging, good critical thinker, a lot of tough questions from Olga to our presenters over the course of the year, which we love and we expect of our scholars. And thank you for being here, Olga. So Mark, if you'd like to take it away, we can get the panel kicked off.
Yeah, thank you, Mario. And we're also going to have Rachel Johnson joining us for the panel too, to answer some questions as well. And I just want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, we're looking for audience questions. So please use the Q&A function under the bar to type your questions in there. And then we'll go over those at the end here. So we'll get things kicked off here. First question is, what impact did the program have on you? And we'll start this one off with Benny.
Thanks, Mark. I think the biggest impact that it had on me was it just gave me the confidence to really sell myself. And I did get, I actually was promoted a few months ago, so technically during the program. So I guess that would be pretty big. And so I was able to get into a leadership position because I think it's all about knowledge and confidence and yeah.
Great. Olga, what about you?
So for me, I think the best part about the program was that I got to know all the people, all the scholars and leaders of the program. And what hit me at one of the events held by Colorado University, when I came into the room, I already seen familiar faces, and especially not being raised and not growing in Denver or not attending school here. You don't know the community, and through this program, I was being able to enter the community and get to know a lot of amazing people. And another thing, during the program, I got licensed. So it was a huge motivation to continue pursue my licensure and continue working no matter of all the failures I've been dealing with. And a lot of people in the program encouraged me to. So yeah.
That's great. Alex?
Yeah, the program was really great, and like Mario said, I'm probably unique that I was already in a leadership role, but I was very new to my leadership role. I had just become principal, and my partners have been encouraging me to figure out how to become the leader I want to be in terms of running my section of the firm. And so I thought this was a great opportunity to do that. Meeting everybody was so impactful, and learning from all the other scholars, not just the people who were speaking and everything, was really impactful to me. And also learning about how their firms were run made me change the way that maybe I want to run my portion of the firm, or how we might change, and then talk about different things. But the program is so good in that, you don't only learn to become a really good leader, but you learn to reach out to all other architects and take in information. I think sometimes we feel like we're competitors, but really we're all, striving for the same thing and working towards the same goals. And so we need to be open with that and make the, architecture community and the architects in Denver all that much better. And this program does that so well. So that was the most impactful thing to me.
Great, thank you. And we'll go to our former chairs. Start it off with Kurt.
Yeah, thank you. So Christopher Kelley has been part of the development programs and part of my life for 4 years now. A lot of in and out. But like Olga, I got my license when I was a scholar. And then much like Benny, as I was in more of the chair role, I got promoted. So obviously there's been a lot of good impact that Christopher Kelley leadership has done for me in my career. I'd say the single most thing that I got out of the project is, first, it was the best decision I made for my career, mainly because it helped me identify my vision and my goal as an architect in my career. Going through all the different sessions, I went from I love my firm to I'm absolutely starting my own practice to why the hell did I become an architect to back to I'm absolutely not starting my own practice. But then it also helped me create a vision for the type of architecture that I wanted to do. I'd say the most impactful session was one of my last ones, where it helped me see the future of the practice and really start to implement that in the way I look at architecture every day. I focused in on educational work, but that vision of how the future of the practice from a technology and a fabrication and manufacturing standpoint can impact that particular sector. I don't think I would have had that vision or that ability to narrow in on my focus without going through this program. And much like Alex said, it's really opens your eyes so that we're not competitors. We're all friends here, and we all have incredible ideas, and we all have different experiences at different firms. And to get that whole breadth of understanding from everyone in the program, it really creates a fun and collaborative environment, which is now through COVID, a bit of a challenge to be as collaborative as we would like to be. So definitely a great decision for me.
Great. Rachel.
I'm really happy to hear the broad bench that this program has seen graduate from it here in Colorado. This is a really varied group of people, various levels, various expertise, and really various interests. It's pretty exciting. I would say my biggest benefit from the program is not necessarily associated with my job. I really grew in my advocacy and my, I guess, voluntary involvement in AIA. And this program is really what kickstarted my interest in that and my desire to do more on a broader level outside of my firm. And I think getting to know politicians and artists and teachers made me realize how much of an impact architects have on the world in general, and not just internally on our own profession and our own industry. And I'm very proud to continue to strive and continue to find avenues to take a stand and to have a role and to contribute outside of my daily job. This program has, of course, contributed to my work life significantly, and I'm most proud of what it has done outside of that.
Great. Thank you, guys. All right. So next question kind of comes back to our sessions. One of the fun things about this really is, as you see the session topics, is seeing where the different teams take that topic and how they want to explore that. It's not always what you think it's going to be. So were there any sessions that were a surprise favorite of yours that you didn't quite see coming? So we'll start with Olga.
Is it because I was smiling wide? Well, it might be a favorite session for a lot of people, but it was a great start, our first session, and how the way it was organized, it made each scholar step outside of the box and made us uptight architects do things that we usually wouldn't do, is do improv, be silly, come up with something on the spot. And this is not something that people usually associate with the architects. And I think this helps us spread our boundaries and create something new, better, challenge ourselves for something we have never done before, something out of character.
Great. Thank you. And Rachel, what about for you?
I can remember 2 sessions. Both were not when I was a scholar. I was attending some sessions as chair when I first brought the program to Colorado, but actually 3. Number 1, my uncle came and spoke as one of our keynotes back in Kurt's class, and the fact that my glorious uncle was so nervous to be in front of such esteemed architects made me proud of what we are and what we strive to be. I also met 2 of my great mentors in this program, Sherry Giroux and Nan Anderson. They've both been speakers multiple years, but I've kept in touch, and they're sort of my guiding light when I have industry questions or just life thoughts. But they were both introduced to me through this program.
Great. What about you, for you, Alex?
So my answer was going to be the same as Olga's. I absolutely loved that session, and it really brought our group together very quickly. I'm going to be interested to see how that happens with next year, and it's going to be a challenging thing, but I know that the scholars that are going to be included in next year are going to do a great job. But I guess to talk about a different session then, since Olga took my answer, I'm sure we all had a great time with that. If I had to talk in general about the sessions and what I thought was really impactful and I got the most out of, and I think a lot of people did, was a panel similar to this. Being able to have open discussions with future leaders and with existing leaders and all that kind of stuff. That just was so impactful to me. I think you have to, speak up and ask questions and do all of that. But boy, you get a lot out of something like that. And I really enjoyed that with all the sessions. I think we had a panel on every one of our sessions just because it was so successful. So I guess that's kind of a general comment I have.
Yeah, we definitely did a lot of panels, and every time it was really fun to just get all the different ideas together and hear what everyone had to say. So,
yeah, there was very unique people on all the panels too, so it was really good.
Yeah, definitely. And Benny, what about you?
Yeah, of course, we all love that first session. There was actually a picture in the previous slide of me dancing like an idiot in that session. So I think, is it bad to say in my own session that I was kind of surprised at how much I enjoyed my own? I think it just, with all that planning and everything, it all came together and it worked relatively well, and I really liked our panel and our speakers. I worked on the entrepreneurship one, which is the third session. So luckily we were able to be together as a group at that point. And yeah, I think, I don't know, I had a lot of fun just the way everything came together.
Can I say something about your session? I'd like to point out
Sure.
that it was a very unique session in the fact that Benny was a presenter in his own session, which goes to show how he thought outside the box, and that, you know, he was acting as a leader already, and that he had the courage to get up there and speak about something, which I was very impressed about. So nice work.
If I'm not
Thank you.
mistaken,
Yeah.
and Klein, who is the editor for a great book, 15th edition Architect's Handbook for Professional Practice, was on the panel. Am I not mistaking the session?
That was in our session. That was the that was like the boot camp, I think.
No.
No?
Well, she was on one of the panels, and that was amazing. I thought it was your session. Then goes back to Alex's comment.
No.
Panels were amazing.
All right. What about for you, Kurt? What was your favorite session?
If you don't mind, I'd like to touch on two sessions. So when I was a scholar, I, for some reason, picked contracts and negotiation as my first choice. And I actually ended up loving that session so much like Benny, in that I've actually now become the lead for our legal focus group in the office. So in an office of 194 people, whenever they have legal questions on contracts or things to put in the documents, it usually funnels through me, and we have a team that analyzes it. So I totally dork out on the legal aspect. So any of you out there who are trying to figure out what sessions to choose, I highly recommend that one. Just it gives you, as a future leader, a good base of what is some of the most important part of our practice. But in terms of the inspirational session, it was the last session, the future of practice, which at the time was the last session. And that's where I met Bill Allen with Evolve Lab and Chris O'Hare with Studio NYL. And they completely blew open the doors in my mind on what the future of parametric and algorithmic design is going to do for our profession, and how that relates to prefabrication, to where essentially everything can be built in a controlled environment, put on a truck bed and shipped out to the site and assembled pretty easily. And that through the proper parametrics and algorithmic sequences, you can have Revit basically spit out shop drawings to a point where the final set that goes out is the full definition of the systems that are prefabbed and how they're assembled. It takes out a lot of back and forth work, and really can streamline and improve the way our systems are put together. So that has just been a kind of dominant thing in the back of my mind for all the work that I've been doing moving forward, and completely reshaped the way I see my profession, the profession as a whole. So it was pretty spectacular.
That's great. Thank you, Kurt. All right. And our last question, I have a feeling for our class may touch on what we've already said for the session where we're dancing and everything else, but what was your favorite memory from CKLDP that you have? So Benny, we'll let you start this one.
Oh, my favorite memory. That's a good one. I just, you know, I just liked all the happy hours and meeting everyone, you know. That sounds terrible, but it really was, like Olga said, it's about all the people, meeting all the people, and all the scholars, and just getting to know them better. And you know, after the session's done, just all this stuff is crammed into your head. You kind of let loose a little bit and talk to people about their lives and their firm and their history and their experience. So that I think was my favorite kind of memory, was all those happy hours.
Great. What about for you, Alex?
Yeah, so, you know, the whole program was memorable. But one of the best things that I think I got out of it, and that I remember the most, is when you started to have these engaging dialogues between the scholars. and sometimes they'd get a little heated, and it really showed the passion that was there. And I think, Mark, it was actually at your office where we kind of had to get crammed into this really small room, and we all kind of opened up and weren't so afraid to talk and have these roundtable discussions and get up close and personal with the presenters. And so remembering kind of some of those things rather than just kind of sitting there in like a lecture hall listening to somebody lecture, I feel like having the dialogue and the interaction with everybody was probably my favorite thing. I got so much out of that. And I did love the happy hours too. You really get to know everybody. So that was fun. So.
Definitely. And Olga, what about for you?
I'd say that my favorite part was that you can learn and get inspiration from places that you don't expect you can get them from. And the variety of speakers, not coming only from architectural background, or how architectural background can lead you different paths throughout the life. So unpredictability and of experiences and knowledge you can gain that can help you develop yourself professionally and personally. That's what I guess I like the most.
Great. I know Kurt had to drop off a couple minutes early, but I figured Rachel would be great to end this question on. So, Rachel.
My favorite memories from Christopher Kelley continue. Just like all of you are saying, it's the people. It's the people that you get connected with that you never would have been connected with, or didn't know existed, or didn't know you had an idea or a thought or a feeling in common. I go to national AIA conferences now, and I see past scholars and past founders, and I make a point to connect with them, both as speakers on panels for those national conferences, introducing the program to other chapters. But also, I think we met up with one of the original founders in New Orleans this year at Mardi Gras for one of our conferences, and I got to introduce him to my AIA crew, and he introduced me to some DC scholars who are now leading the program in other chapters. But I keep in touch with these folks, and my network has luckily gotten to be national just because of my involvement in DC. But locally and nationally, that network continues, and it just grows. And that perhaps shouldn't surprise anyone, but it is a surprise to me all the time, that I now know people, and I get to say hi to strangers who are no longer strangers.
Well, great. Well, thank you guys, and hopefully this kind of helps provide a little insight for all the participants today as to what the program's about and what you'll experience if you're in the program here. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Rebecca to take any audience questions.
Yeah, so we have one question that just disappeared, but we had one audience question, and
look at Rebecca. Look at answered. Click on answered.
I see. Oh, okay. We had one audience question, which was a really good question. If anyone else has any, even just logistical application, any questions, feel free to drop that question into the Q&A section in the bottom. The question was, reflecting on the lack of diversity in the architecture profession historically, how does the program address this and seek to make change against institutional racism and toward more equity and justice within practice? I think this is a fantastic question, and one of, I'm sorry, I'm just going to speak real quick, open it back to the rest of the panel for comments, but one of the things that's great about this program is that our topics change year to year, so it allows us to stay relevant with whatever's happening in our industry. So this is something that we will consider really strongly, and equity in practice was part of this program last year. I think it will take a larger component coming into this new year, and the opportunity for an entire session or multiple sessions to focus on this really critical issue, and we can then bring in experts and different perspectives and have a really honest about this and talk about real change can happen. So I think that also goes hand in hand with in the pandemic right now, and the design changes that need to happen when you're considering designing for safety. And so the topics have the flexibility to change and adapt year to year, so we can stay relevant and keep the topics about what's important for us. So that I hope that will definitely become a topic for this coming year. And I will let anyone else who wants to speak on that question go ahead.
So I don't mind jumping in on this. My session, I think, was business management. And one of the topics that we had in there was directly related to this. And we had brought in some people from AIA who've done some research on the lack of diversity in architecture and what we can do to create more diversity. And so I encourage next year to bring that topic in on any of your sessions, because it is a huge thing. But when we brought these people in, it did create kind of a dialogue, and how we as leaders in the profession can help create more diversity. And one thing I do remember is somebody asked, like, well, I can't just go grab people in off the street that are diverse and bring them in. They have to want to come in, and then I can hire them. How can we make a difference? And one of the fellow scholars said something very memorable to me during that session, or to the class during that session. And it was, we can learn to create an environment that is good for diversity and promotes diversity. And if you do that, diversity will start to evolve through it. And I never really thought about it that way, that we need to create environments that promote diversity to have that diversity happen. But I think this program will open up your eyes to a lot of those kind of issues. I mean, it came up in multiple sessions. I think, Mark, in your session, we talked about redlining and doing a number of things, and played these kind of fun games to really open up your mind on what it means. But there are so many opportunities in this program that will help for us to understand what diversity means, and to limit racism and all of those things. And it really depends on how the scholars steer that. But I found in our sessions that that came up a lot and was a very important topic. So that's what I have to say.
I'd like to chime in on this topic as well, because I know that our profession historically was not very diverse or inclusive, but the way I see it changing is if we raise diverse group of people to enter the profession. So at this point, the pool of professionals that we have is not going to change. This is it. We only have this much people with architectural degree at a certain point in time. But we have all kinds of kids in school who learn, and if we can teach them about architecture, how they can do, and there are programs in place that do successfully now. So I'm looking forward to seeing our profession diversifying through those efforts, us reaching out to kids in schools, showing them that they have opportunity to go study architecture, study design, study construction, and go into this profession, that this can be an option for them. Because right now we just don't have it, but we can have it in the future if we put the right effort in the right places.
Yeah, and building off of what you're talking about, Olga, I think that the community engagement session in our annual lineup is a really great place to start to delve into some of that work that firms can and are doing at the educational level, and going into underserved communities and saying, hey, we're going to engage you. Let's get student interns in. We're actually doing that at our office for this coming year. We just talked about it yesterday, and it's kind of an exciting thing. But there are things happening like that, and so that's just the way one session could start to broach some of those topics in a very meaningful and impactful way. And then also would be an interesting panel possibly that where you could get folks engaged with the educational community, perhaps with local politicians that we've had participate on panels during that session, and members of the business community outside of architecture. So yeah, the opportunities to incorporate these topics are numerous, and I think we're going to especially encourage it this year. So when we issue sort of our final and refined topics or prompts for each session to scholars that we select this year, I'm sure we'll make an effort to sort of include a bit more of that aspect in those summaries and prompts.
From an AIA perspective, there are so many programs out there that exist for young people, for even kindergartners to learn about architecture. And Olga, your statement is so spot on right now that no, we can't, outside of bringing more people into the state who are licensed and who are interested in architecture, we really do need to nurture young people to be excited about the profession and recognize that they're invited. I think there's a historical precedent that basically says if you don't look like Frank Gehry, you cannot be an architect, and that's a long-standing thing that we need to overcome as an industry. My call to action for past, present, and future scholars of the program nationwide is please don't get involved in this program if you're just interested in advancing your own career. As architects, we have such a huge obligation to care for our communities and care for our earth that we'd be falling short if we don't try to do that or try to learn more about how to do that. We have an equity, diversity, and inclusion committee at AIA that is, I think, one of the most robust in the country. We're very proud of the work they're doing, and it's all self-sustaining and self-run. It's pretty exciting stuff, but they have people looking at educational pipeline. Who do we have coming into the profession? Where do we have blocks that we need to help people overcome? We have contacts at the university locally that we can definitely tie into more. And really this group of Christopher Kelley scholars should be the next leaders in of course, supporting your firm and your career, but seeing what you can do outside of that to improve the health, humanity, and happiness of our industry and how that impacts others as well.
Thanks, Rachel and everyone. Those good comments on that. We currently don't have any other questions, and we are 3 minutes till 1. I can hand it back over to Mike if he has any closing comments.
Well, great. Thanks, guys. Terrific leadership and insight on how this program has affected you. And I hope that people who are watching today are thirsty for more and want to get involved and have a similar impact as well. I know that in my experience, we started a program in 2006 in Illinois called the Leadership Institute and trained over 200 people through that in a 10-year period. And it was transformative on a variety of levels. Not only was it transformative for their personal leadership, but their professional practice leadership, place leadership. They took the tools they learned and really changed the world for the better. And that's, I think, the bottom line why most people get into architecture in the first place is because of that latent desire to make a difference. And this will help you make a difference. It will help you go further and really move the needle. So if you're looking for something right now and everything in the world is upside down and there's not a lot of leadership in your life, this is the chance to take the bull by the horns and make it happen. So we are looking forward to having more scholars in this program and seeing what they do with that training and insight. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for all that you've done to help showcase this program and give it a bigger audience. And we hope to see you on a future Virtual Connect. Check our calendar at AIA Colorado for more information on those, and have a great rest of the week. Thanks, everybody.